We're going to walk through the steps on how to set up a template in Corel Draw for a vehicle outline. First, we'll open up the template file, and this one I downloaded from Pro Vehicle Templates. It's digitaldesignware.com. This is for a RAV4. When I've got this open in here, these are all vector objects, and I can zoom out. I hit my F4 key to bring everything out. What I want to do is, since everything's grouped together, I'll ungroup the entire design, and I want to delete these extraneous pieces up here where it says Toyota RAV4 and the other portion, so that that doesn't show up later on and it's not constricting my design. So I'll delete all that. Now once I've got that gone, I have all the different objects in here. You can see I can move them aside, and I've got all of them ungrouped. I can see in my object manager over to the right here where I've got all the different objects in the layer. If I scroll to the top, you see that's layer 1 right there. And we're going to work with layers and creating a couple more in just a little bit. So what I want to do is grab the outsides of each one of these vehicles. If I go into the white space where there's nothing else in there and I select it, the top portion of each one of these groups of objects is the outline of the vehicle. So I've got this one selected here. I'll hold down my shift key and I'll go through the rest of them and select that area in the white space on it so that I get the vehicle. And once I've selected all of them, I'll move it to the side to verify. Yes, I've got my outlines. I'll hit Control-Z to put them back where they're at. I'll hit Control-C to copy those outlines. And now I'm going to create a new page. On that new page, I'll hit Control-V to paste them in there. And I want to put a box that's around the outside of the entire page here. So I can come over to my rectangle tool and double-click that and double left-click it. And it will create a box that fills the entire page there. Use my pick tool. I'll select everything in here, and since there are a bunch of different objects, I can now combine them using the combine function at the top of the toolbar here. When I click on that, now this is a single object. And I can test it by hitting one of the colors down here to fill it, and I've successfully combined everything, and now I can fill it with whatever color I want. I'm going to use this on the first page to block out everything around the vehicles so that I can design behind them in another layer. So I can hit Control-C on this to copy that, go back to page 1, and here's where I'm going to start working with the layers. I'll come back up to the top of my layers again, and I can collapse this group. I don't need to see everything in there. I just need to see that I've got different layers here. And either this button up here, I can use that to get it to a new layer. Close that out, sorry. Or this button down here where I can create a new layer. I'll click on that, and I've got a new layer up here that's above layer 1, which is where I want it, and I'm going to call this bounding box. It's going to be my control to block out everything behind it. Picture these layers as like on a transparency machine where I have one on top of another. As I put them all on top of that transparency machine and the light's shining from underneath and transmitting it to the wall, I can see where it's blocked out there to show up as lettering or design or whatever on a wall. So I've named that one bounding box, and I can see it was red there, so I could tell that that was the one I'm working in, or I could select it. And I'll hit Control-V because remember I had that blue box selected from before, and you can see the bounding box is on top of the other one and it blocked everything out there. This is what I want. I'm going to right click to lock this so that I don't move it when I'm selecting anything else. So I can click around in here. I'm left clicking all over the place. It's not going to select that. But if I left click inside here, it's going to select the items that were in the layer behind it because it's still editable. What I'm going to do now is I want to select most of the vehicles and try to avoid hitting everything in the tire. And I want it transparent inside of these. So I'll start with this one. I left click and drag around it. And I've got everything selected there. And I can simply go over to my color controls here and left click on that, and it makes it all transparent in there. I'll do the same with this car. I don't like where that started, so I'll come up over here. Just below it, again, transparent. Same with this one here. Make it transparent. Again here. Transparent. And my last vehicle all the way down, transparent. Now I want to block in the windows where I'm not going to have any design showing through. So I want to fill in this window here, this one, the front window, and the front window here, and side windows where no design is going to show through. I'll use my Smart Fill tool over here, And once I've selected that, this gray color is just fine because I'll use that for my bounding box also at the end. No outline. And I'll simply click inside those areas and it'll fill it up for me. I got to zoom in a little bit here. See what I'm working with. Click that window, this one here. I could do this also with tail lights and stuff like that if I wanted to. You can get much more advanced on it. We're just doing a basic one right now. This window and this window here. I'm not going to bother with the front window on that, or I could. I could zoom in a little bit and get right inside there. That one's filled. Zoom in on this one, and this one's filled. Now I'll click F4, and that brings me out. It expands it so I can see my entire design. I don't need my Smart Fill tool anymore. I'll go back to the Pick tool. And now what I'm going to do is I want to take everything that's inside this design, except for the big blue bounding box, and select it. I'm going to cut this out of here and then go to that bounding box layer and drop it in there so it's in the bounding box layer. So I hit Control X to cut it. And I'll go to my bounding box layer and I'll hit Control V to drop it in there. And you can see now it's on top of everything all the way through. If I go over here to this pencil looking icon, I'm locking editing on this bounding box layer, and no matter where I click or drag in here, it won't let me edit anything in there, which is what I want. I'll collapse this layer. Layer 1 has nothing in it, so I'm going to rename it. Right click on it, rename, and we'll call this working layer, or working. And now when I design something in here, since this layer is behind the bounding box, we'll take a square and a rectangle and I'll draw it out and I'll fill it with a light blue color down here. You can see it fills the cars, and I can quickly make a proof for a customer from this now, editing on the working layer so they can see exactly where, if I'm doing some text in here, say, I'm going to do this is going to be the My Versacam mobile. And I'm worried about, oh, this is going to be a little bit bigger than this, but I can see my wheel well right there is interfering with it. And I've got, I can't quite bring it up in here because it would interfere with the handles and everything there. So I can see where I would put it here on the vehicle and where my seam for the doors can interact with it. So I can get a real-time visual of what's going on with it. We'll make it a different color, however I want to do this design. And I can zoom in and, yep, it's not going to hit the seam right there. It's good here. And you can do your design to see where the obstructions and problems are going to be. This is a real quick tutorial on how to make a design template for working for vehicle wraps.